Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and we're back this week. We're meeting on Facebook again, and it's out there on YouTube and all the other great places. And welcome to the meeting. Sorry we missed last week or last two. When was it? Tuesday, Thursday? I don't remember. Both days.
Yeah.
Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, because of house renovations. Anyway, welcome to our meeting tonight. We're going to say a little prayer and we'll get started. A lot of technical stuff tonight. You got it, dear. There you go. Okay, here we go. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to share your wonderful revelation to us. Thank you for all the new things that's happened. We heard about some great news with some things that's going in Israel today. And we thank you for the opportunity to share your wonderful revelation. Pray you open our hearts and minds and give us the ability to share with others. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. And before I forget, let me tell everybody here, they're having a meeting over in North Carolina, was it there? Charlotte. South Carolina? No, Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know.
You're
My
talking
brain's
about Matt, talking about
Gabriel's coming to
Gabriel.
to share some information about what's going on over in Israel. They're putting a museum together that's attached to the museum that's there for the boat they think that Jesus built. Y'all remember that from the story of Jesus?
Yeah,
and
but I found a boat.
huh? Yeah.
I didn't know
Well,
they
they got a. Oh yeah, they got a museum. It's in our version of the book when we went through it. It's in the, if you go look up that particular area, there's pictures of it in there. But anyway, they got a museum over there, and half the museum they're going to give to the Urantia Foundation to set up a museum about Jesus from the Urantia book.
Wow,
Believe it or not. So it's a wonderful thing.
that's
But they're
fantastic.
having. This guy is going from California. I think he's making about 8 stops across the country, and they're inviting people over to hear him speak and that sort of thing. And of course, what they're looking for is donations to help finance some of the building of the museum. So anyway, we're going to try to make arrangements. It's in April, and we're going to try if we can to go. I don't know if we'll be able to make it or not, but want to let y'all know about it. And as I get information, I'll forward it to you about it. If y'all want to try to go.
If you're coming, Roger, let me know. I'm gonna meet you or something. We'll have coffee or whatever, lunch or whatever,
Yeah, well, Gary, you're close enough. It's probably within short driving distance to you, more than likely. Where is it? I think it's Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken.
It's
I think
in
it's
Charlotte.
going to be yeah.
It is in Charlotte. I'm in another reading group, and one of the head guys in the reading group, he's gonna host them while they're here.
Yeah, we'll have to get a motel and all that stuff over there. And I think the only expense of going, there's no fee for going to the meetings and stuff like that, but you'll have to provide your own motel and that sort of stuff, food and that sort of thing. Hey, Andrew. Oh, he's connecting right now. Owen, I know, but he's got Andrew down there, so maybe he goes by Andrew. I've been calling him Owen all this time. Okay, let's get started here. We're on 41.3.3, when sons that are too large. And here, would you start out for us tonight? This mouse does not work.
Do I have to touch anything to talk or just?
Oh, I can hear you.
When sons that are too large are thrown off a nebular mother wheel, they soon. Oh, you just.
I'm trying to get this
I can't hear it now.
Sorry.
That's okay. How about 3-4?
Right now, if it comes back up one more time, I'm going to be. I'm going to do it.
Can you pop it down? I got 3-4, honey. I don't have 3-3. I can't see it.
Oh, I'm still right there.
It's all right. I still can't see it. Still have 3-4. Okay, good. 41.3.3. When suns that are too large are thrown off a nebular mother wheel, they soon break up or form double stars. All suns are originally truly gaseous, though they may later boy, I'm going to have a hard time reading today. They may later transiently exist in semi-liquid state. When your sun attains this quasi-liquid state of supergas pressure, it was not sufficiently large to split equitably. This being equatorially, this being one type of double star formation. Let me read that again.
That's all right.
Bubbles do that.
Now you mute again.
Me?
Your,
All right.
Diane,
you-
your microphone is,
Diane.
My microphone's not working.
It's
Well,
just
it's
breaking up.
yeah, breaking up.
Stop.
I don't like my new computer.
Uh,
I like that he bought it for me, but I.
yeah. Mute. There we go. There we go. Okay. No, because you're muted now. Okay, it's fine. It's fine because I'm going to explain it. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody? Yeah. Okay. All right, we're back to normal again. Okay. What it's saying here is that when some suns are thrown off the nebular wheel, y'all know what a nebular wheel is, right?
Nope.
Huh? It's like
Nope.
a mother wheel. Yeah, it's a wheel that throws off material in a spiral way, and the material will follow it around, right, as it's throwing this material out. So when our sun was thrown out from its nebular wheel, it was a certain size and semi-liquid state. Now it wasn't big enough for it to split and become a double star. That's what they're talking about here. But some of the material, when this happened, that happens, and that's how these double stars come into being. All right, but ours is not that state at all. And another way they can split is they can be so large that they'll just split down the middle and become two stars on their own. Okay, so that's two ways that these stars can split, and you can end up with double stars. What's interesting about this is there was one of these back in 1572 that people could see in the sky at daylight. It was so large. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. It's going to tell us about this a couple paragraphs away. All right, so Rodney, would you take the next paragraph for me, please?
sure. When less than 1/10 the size of your sun, these fiery spheres rapidly contract, condense, and cool. When upwards of 30 times its size, rather 30 times the gross content of actual material, suns readily split into two separate bodies, either becoming the centers of new systems or else remaining in each other's gravity grasp and revolving about a common center as one type of double star.
Oh, you can imagine this when it happens in these ways, they start to rotate around each other. So they become the center of a local little universe or system of its own. And all the planets would revolve around both of them at the same time, but they revolve around themselves. Okay, this is another way it can happen. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. All right. And Jane, would you take this next little paragraph, please? It's only a sentence, but
The most recent of the major cosmic eruptions in Orpington was the extraordinary double star explosion, the light of which reached Urantia in AD 1572. This conflagration was so intense that the explosion was clearly visible in broad daylight.
that's the one I was talking about. So they actually saw this in daylight. Go ahead and take that next paragraph too, Jane. You don't get off that sheet.
Not all stars are solid, but many of the older ones are. Some of the reddish, faintly glimmering stars have acquired a density at the center of their enormous masses, which would be expressed by saying that 1 cubic inch of such a star, if on Urantia, would weigh 6,000 pounds. The enormous pressure, accompanied by loss of heat and circulating energy, has resulted in bringing the orbits of the basic material units closer and closer together until they now closely approach the status of electronic condensation. This process of cooling and contracting may continue to the limiting and critical explosion point of ultimatonic condensation.
Two different concepts, right? Electronic condensation and ultimatonic condensation. The electronic condensation normally happens when the temperature gets to a certain point that is closeness to it, and then it starts to create a moisture, and that's a real problem with our electronics right now. I mean, if you put your electronics in a room that is super cold or super hot, both of them can cause this electronic condensation, and you start to develop water around your electronics. Okay, but they're talking more about electronic condensation in the sense that it throws off new electrons. Okay, and that's basically what this critical explosion point of ultimatonic condensation is. It's like a nuclear bomb almost. Okay, makes sense? All right.
So our sun could explode?
No, some of these suns do actually explode, creating larger masses of suns, right?
Oh, that's because the centers are so kind of packed.
You got it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right, from these explosions. And think about this: 1 inch of this star on our planet would equal 6,000 pounds. Try to pick that up with your 2 fingers, right? Not gonna happen. All right, so that's some pretty heavy stuff. Okay, let's go on. Lex, would you take the next one?
4137.
Right.
Okay. Most of the giant suns are relatively young. Most of the dwarf stars are old, but not all. The original dwarfs may be very young and may glow with an intense white light, never having known an initial red stage of youthful shining. Both very young and very old suns usually shine with a reddish glow. The yellow tinge indicates moderate youth or approaching old age, but the brilliant white light signifies robust and extended life.
Okay, so we're more along the line of a young sun coming along, right? So our sun's gonna go for a long time.
5 billion
Okay.
years.
Yeah, long time, 5 billion years at least. Gary, would you take the next one?
Yeah. When all adolescent suns do not pass through a pulsating stage, at least not visibly, when looking out into space, you may observe many of these younger stars whose gigantic respiratory heaves require from 2 to 7 days to complete a cycle. Your own sun still carries a diminishing legacy of the mighty upswelling of its younger days, but the period has lengthened from the former 3 to 3.5 days pulsations to the present 11.5 years sunspot cycles.
Interesting. So it respirates, right? Just like the universe does. You think about it. All right. Stellar variables. Here you're up again.
Stellar variables have numerous origins. In some double stars, the tides caused by rapidly Changing distances as the two bodies swim around their orbits also occasion periodic fluctuations of light. These gravity variations produce regular and recurrent flares, just as the capture of meteors by the accretion of energy material at the surface result in a comparatively sudden flash of light, which would speedily recede to normal brightness for that sun. Sometimes the sun will capture a stream of meteors in a line of lessened gravity opposition, and occasionally collisions cause stellar flare-ups, but the majority of such phenomena are wholly due to internal fluctuations.
Okay.
So
So this basically continues to explain what happens with these suns, the different types of suns that are out there and their thing. I'm not going into great detail about that. Let's just keep moving to the next one, which would be Rodney. Would you take that one, please?
Yes, 310, correct?
No.
In one group of variable stars, the period of light fluctuation is directly dependent on luminosity, and knowledge of this fact enables astronomers to utilize such suns as universe lighthouses, or accurate measuring points for the further exploration of distant star clusters. By this technique, it is possible to measure stellar distances most precisely up to more than 1 million light years. Better methods of space measurement or improved telescopic technique will sometime more fully disclose the 10 grand divisions of the superuniverse of Orvonton. You will at least recognize 8 of these immense sectors as enormous and fairly symmetrical star clusters.
Hey, so we got two different concepts coming out of this paragraph. First is they're talking about the universe astronomers here. Okay, when you leave this planet, you have the opportunity to study astronomy, the universe. Okay, and that's what they're talking about. These suns become lighthouses, so you can accurately determine measuring points from one point to another. The other thing they're talking about here is as we improve our own measuring capabilities with telescopes, we will be able to distinguish at least 8 of the 10 grand divisions of the super universe of Orvonton. Okay, so as our telescopes get better, we will be able to actually see the 10 different 8 of the 10 different sections. 2 of them will be out of our sight range because they're beyond way out there, right? But we will be able to definitely see the 10 clusters. That's what they're talking about, which is going to be pretty nice. You know, it kind of validates the books in some way.
Okay.
All right.
Those light fluctuations are called by astronomers Cepheid variables. And that was discovered by a female astronomer in Harvard in the 1930s.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, so Orvonton is our super universe.
Yeah, that's our the super universe of Orvonton. Yeah.
So they're just talking about our super universe with
Just the
10.
7th sector. Yeah, the 7th sector. And there's 10 grand divisions of the 7th sector, right?
Yeah, there's just like 10 Milky Ways or some other name for them.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. You can
Okay, I had
think
to
of it
get it
that
in
way.
my finite mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and remember Nebadon is our local universe, right? So Nebadon, our local universe, fits within Orvonton. We clear?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. All right. We're going to talk more about this technical stuff, sun density. And I got you a nice picture of a sun in case you was wondering what it looked like. Big yellow ball. Okay, Jane, I think you're up again.
4. Sun density. The mass of your sun is slightly greater than the estimate of your physicists, who have reckoned it as about 2 octillion tons. That's 2 times, I can read that, 10 to 27.
10 to the 27th, right.
Tons, yeah. It now exists about halfway between the most dense and the most diffuse stars, having about 1.5 times the density of water. But your sun is neither a liquid nor a solid, it is gaseous. And this is true, notwithstanding the difficulty of explaining how gaseous matter can attain this and even more greater densities.
Okay, y'all want an example of what they're talking about here? If you think about it, in a volcano, because of the immense heat inside of a volcano, remember when it's inside the volcano, it's what? Gaseous liquid, right? When it comes out and cools down, what does it become? A solid. Okay. So if you think about it, the core of our planet is what? Probably a gaseous liquid, just like the sun's are. Okay. And as it cools, as it comes out, it becomes more and more solid. Make sense? So you have all the secrets of the universe right there, right? That's what you came for tonight. Huh? Oh, okay. And there's a picture of the sun. It shows our Earth, how big we are compared to our sun. You see that little Earth down there?
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
We're
I
just kind
can't
of like
even
a
see.
dot or a period, right? Look at Pluto down there. You can't even, it's so small you can't even see it, right? Pretty interesting picture, isn't it? This has been out there for years. Yeah. Okay. Latch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Gaseous, liquid, and solid states are matters of atomic molecular relationships. But density is a relationship of space and mass. Density varies directly with the quantity of mass in space and inversely with the amount of space in mass. The space between the central cores of matter and the particles which whirl around these centers, as well as the space within such material particles.
Well, how dense it is has a relationship of how it rotates, right? How quickly it rotates and how closely it rotates to the center. All right. And here's another nice little picture of our sun. And you can see here in this picture, you see the sunspots here and the gaseous explosions coming out. This is what they were talking about a little bit earlier. All right. Okay, Gary, would you take the next one?
Cooling stars can be typically gaseous and tremendously dense at the same time. You are not familiar with the solar supergases, but these and other unusual forms of matter explain how even non-solid suns can attain a density equal to iron, about the same as Urantia, and yet be in a highly heated gaseous state and continue to function as suns. The atoms in these dense supergases are exceptionally small. They contain few electrons. Such suns have also largely lost their free atomic stores of energy.
Okay, so it tries to explain the physics involved in the suns themselves. And I'm not going to make a fool out of myself trying to explain this to you. That's what physicists do for a living, right? You can look these up. All
Isn't
right.
somebody a physicist here?
No,
Hmm?
not hardly. Okay.
No.
Let's keep going. Diane, I think you're up again there.
One of your nearby suns, which started life with about the same mass as yours, has now contracted almost to the size of Urantia, having become 40,000 miles as dense as your sun. The weight of this hot, cold, gaseous solid is about 1 ton per cubic inch, and still the sun shines with a faint reddish glow, the senile glimmer of a dying monarch of light.
All right. Kind of interesting how they compare our sun to one that's our close neighbor, isn't it? You know, it's like you just assume the suns are all alike, and in reality, they're probably as unique as each one of the planets are, right? So let's go on. They have the same function, right? To create light and heat. You know, it's kind of interesting too. There's a comment I probably should have made a couple paragraphs back. But remember when we studied the architectural spheres, the planets that are the mansion worlds and the system capitals and that sort of thing. Remember, those are hollow, right? They're empty inside. Or we consider what we consider empty. They probably have, you know, the mechanical controllers and that sort of thing. But the planets themselves are all physical inside. So that's why we have this hot mass of molten gases and stuff inside our planet. So our planet is really unique compared to even the architectural mansion worlds. And it's these gases and explosions and all this stuff that creates mountains, right? Think about that. Because of the explosions and the earthquakes and the volcanoes and all this, that's why we have mountainous regions. But when you get to the mansion world, you won't see that anymore, right?
Right.
Because they've never gone through that growth period of as a planet, right? They'll be perfectly round, and any of the things that we see there will be artificially created for our enjoyment, you know. But it won't have the rugged mountains that we see here, right? Okay, let's go on to the next one. Rodney, would you take the next ones?
I'll miss the mountains.
Now,
Let's see.
most of the suns, I think.
Yes, most of the suns, however, are not so dense. One of your near neighbors has a density exactly equal to that of your atmosphere at sea level. If you were in the interior of this sun, you would be unable to discern anything. And temperature permitting, you could penetrate the majority of the suns which twinkle in the night sky and notice no more matter than you perceive in the air of your earthly living rooms.
That's hard to imagine traveling through a sun and not noticing the difference, right? Maybe the angels, huh? Yeah, we get vague, but maybe the angels are able to do that, so we don't know, you know. And this next one's really interesting. Jane, would you take this next one?
The massive sun of Valencia, one of the largest in Orvington, has a density only 1/1000th that of Urantia's atmosphere. Were it in composition similar to your atmosphere and not superheated, it would be such a vacuum that human beings would speedily suffocate if they were in or on it.
Okay. It's interesting they have a name for this sun, doesn't it? Valencia, right?
Yeah.
Just the sun itself. All right. And of course, we'd suffocate if we were there. All right. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Another of the Orvantan giants now has a surface temperature a trifle under 3,000 degrees. Its diameter is over 300 million miles, ample room to accommodate your sun and the present orbit of the Earth. And yet, for all this enormous size, over 40 million times that of your sun, its mass is only about 30 times greater. These enormous suns have an extending fringe that reaches almost 4 from one to the other.
A huge sun, and it'd be as big as our sun plus all the way out to where we are. Okay, solar radiation. Gary, would you take the first?
Okay. Solar 5, solar radiation. The suns of space are not very dense, is proved by the steady streams of escaping light energies. Too great a density would retain light by opacity until the light energy pressure reached the explosion point. There is a tremendous light or gas pressure within a sun to cause it to shoot forth such a stream of energy as to penetrate space for millions upon millions of miles to energize, light, and heat the distant planets. 15 feet of surface of the density of Urantia would effectively prevent the escape of all X-rays and light energies from a sun until the rising internal pressure of accumulating energies resulted from atomic dismemberment overcame gravity with a tremendous outward explosion.
Interesting. They use the density of our planet. 15 foot of the surface is the density of our planet. Huh?
Do you know what I'm getting here?
What's that,
Is
Gary?
the gravitational, my understanding of gravity is everything has a degree of gravity based on its mass or
Right.
density.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which. But
Yeah.
even with this gaseous states is so great and so thin, their gravitational pull to one another, okay, creates such a high pressure and heat density that the basic building materials explode. It's an atomic explosion, creates an
Wow.
atomic explosion. It's almost like at the center core of the Earth or somewhere of the sun, somewhere near there are nuclear explosions going out that are strictly
Awesome.
of
Yeah.
gas.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And they've told us in the book in multiple places that if we learn to understand the atomic level of our existence, we could heat and light and cool our whole planet without any problem at all, right? I mean, it really is. It's just learning what to do, right? Dear, would you take the next two? Because one sentence is not enough.
Light in the presence of the propulsive gases is highly explosive when confined at high temperatures by opaque retaining walls. Light is real. As you value energy and power on your world, sunlight would be economical at $1 million a pound. The interior of your sun is a vast X-ray generator. The suns are supported from within by the incessant bombardment of these mighty emanations.
Really, this is the same process, if you think about it. The X-ray machine works. When you go to the doctor and they take X-rays, it's the same principle. All right. Okay. Let's see, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. It requires more than 1/2 million years for an X-ray stimulated electron to work its way from the very center of an average sun up to the solar surface, whence it starts out on its space adventure, maybe to warm an inhabited planet, to be captured by a meteor, to participate in the birth of an atom, to be attracted by a highly charged dark island of space, or to find its space flight terminated by a final plunge into the surface of a sun similar to the one of its origin.
Interesting.
Hmm.
A million years, half a million years before it gets to the surface, and then it goes out and it could be caught by a meteor or a planet or whatever, you know. And then what's even more interesting, I think it was 1905, if I remember my medical training. It's when they discovered X-rays and found a use for them in X-raying bones, you know, so they could see bones. So we haven't been doing this sort of thing very, very long, you know, if you think about it. So it's only in the last 120 years or so we've even been known of X-rays and been using X-rays to benefit ourselves, right? And I expect it'll keep going much, much different. Let me give y'all a good example. When I was in practice, I had a couple different X-ray machines all the time I was in practice. And when I took X-rays, we had literally these square things that you put in the X-ray machine. It was full of film. You took the X-ray, you took it into a dark room, and you had to develop it. Okay. And all this process took time. I mean, when a patient came in, it was 30 minutes to an hour before we ever saw the first X-ray. Okay, because of this process. And when I started, it was dip tanks. You had to dip the X-rays. Okay, and then they came out with processing machines that process the X-rays. Well, now if you go to the hospital or anywhere that has an X-ray machine, it's all electronic, and you stand before the bucky and you shoot the X-ray, goes to the computer, and 30 seconds you got a picture.
Yep.
So that's how far we've come just since I was in practice. Okay, so things changed quickly. And we're not talking about cheap technology. When I went and practiced, the X-ray machine was $25,000. Okay. Now the cheapest ones are about $100,000. Okay. And it's kind of funny because it's a lot less work on the newer ones because it automatically goes into your computer for you and you get a picture immediately. So what's really nice about that is this: when you go to the emergency room and you've had trauma to yourself, they can X-ray you in less than 30 seconds. They know what kind of injury you have, right? Soon as they can get you in front of that X-ray machine, which is quite amazing if you think about it over time, right? And this is all due to X-rays, right? All right. So we are really blessed any way you look at it. Jane, I think you're up again.
The X-rays of a sun's interior charge the highly heated and agitated electrons with sufficient energy to carry them out through space, past the host of detaining influences of intervening matter, and, in spite of diverging gravity attractions, on to the distant spheres of the remote systems. The great energy of velocity required to escape the gravity clutch of a sun is sufficient to ensure that the sunbeam will travel on with unabated velocity until it encounters considerable masses of matter, whereupon it is quickly transformed into heat with the liberation of other energies.
Okay, so think about it this: as an X-ray comes out from the sun, it travels down through space and that sort of thing. Or let's use the example of X-ray for a human being again. As it goes from the bulb where it's generated and it goes into your body, it comes through your body on the other side and they get the picture, right? The thing to remember is that X-ray does not stop in you. What does it do?
Passes through.
Passes straight through. That's why you get a picture. Okay. And the bucky basically collects the information for the picture from the X-ray passing through you. All right. So that's what they're talking about here. It has to have a certain amount or type of matter for the X-ray to be absorbed that it would stop it. So you think of all these X-rays that's coming down from the sun, okay? As it hits the earth, some of them are going to pass through much of the material, right? That's why you could fly a plane across a city with taking x-rays and you can see everything that's inside the building, okay? Like x-ray vision, right? Because the buildings doesn't stop it either, it passes through them. Now, what stops it? If you have a lead line roof, if you've got 1/8 of an inch of lead on top of your head, the x-ray will actually be absorbed by the lead. Okay, so there are certain materials that will stop the x-rays. Okay, and that's how it works. Okay, let's keep going. Lech, would you take the next one?
The 4157. Solar energy may seem to be
No.
propelled. Pardon me?
I think it's the one above that. Is
Oh,
that the one
okay.
we just did? Yeah.
The one about energy, whether as light or in other forms, in its flight through space moves straight forward. The actual particles of material existence traverse space like a fusillade. They go in a straight and unbroken line or procession, except as they are acted on by superior forces, and except as they ever obey the linear gravity pull inherent in material mass and the circular gravity presence of the Isle of Paradise.
And this is interesting because they're telling us here that the gravity mass or the circular gravity presence in the mass of the Isle of Paradise can control this, right? Overrides everything. All right. All right. Let's Gary, would you take the next one? Solar energy may be propelled.
Solar energy may be propelled in waves, but that is due to the action of coexistent and diverse influences. A given form of organized energy does not proceed in waves, but in direct lines. The presence of a second or third form of force energy may cause the stream under the observation to appear to travel in wavy formations, just as in a blinding rainstorm accompanied by a heavy wind. The water sometimes appears to fall in sheets or to descend in waves. The raindrops are coming down in a direct line of unbroken procession, but the action of the wind is such as to give the visible appearance of sheets of water and waves of raindrops.
An optical illusion, isn't it? If you think about it, right? And this is part of the energy they're talking about that we don't even know anything about sometimes, right? You know, the other 27 types of energy out there we haven't even discovered yet. So there's a lot going on. All right, dear, would you take the next one, please?
The action of certain secondary and other undiscovered energies present in the space regions of your local universe is such that solar light emanations appear to execute certain wavy phenomena, as well as to be chopped up in infinitesimal portions of definite length and weight. And practically considered, this is exactly what happens. You can hardly hope to arrive at a better understanding of the behavior of light until such a time as you acquire a clear concept of the interaction and interrelationship of the various space forces and solar energies operating in the space region of Nebadon. Your present confusion is also due to your incomplete grasp of this problem, as it involves the inter-associated activities of the personal and non-personal control of the master universe, the presences, the performances, and the coordination of the conjoint actor and the unqualified absolute.
Okay, so it's, and I mean, there we go. Okay, so it's kind of funny right here at the end of this paragraph, they tell us part of our problem with knowing all this stuff is the non-personal part of the control of the master universe. And they're talking about the performances and coordination of the conjoint actor, the third part of the deity, right? The paradise deity, and the unqualified absolute, who is a non-deity type of, one of the seven absolutes. Okay, so that's not a deified part. So you have the conjoint actor, which is the deified part, working with the unqualified absolute, which is a non-deity part. All right, so kind of interesting. All right, Halcyon, the wanderer of space. Rodney, would you take that first paragraph on that, please?
Yes. In deciphering spectral phenomena, it should be remembered that space is not empty, that light in traversing space is sometimes slightly modified by the various forms of energy and matter which circulate in all organized space. Some of these lines, indicating unknown matter which appear in the spectra of your sun, are due to modifications of well-known elements which are floating throughout space in shattered form. The atomic casualties of the fierce encounters of the solar elemental battles. Space is pervaded by these wandering derelicts, especially sodium and calcium.
And this is interesting. The part of space we think is empty is not, is it? It's full of sodium and calcium, right? Nothing is what you think it would be. Okay. This is the next paragraph really brings it home. Jane, would you take that one for us, please?
Calcium is in fact the chief element of the matter permeation of space throughout Orvington. Our whole superuniverse is sprinkled with minutely pulverized stone. Stone is literally the basic building matter for the planets and spheres of space. The cosmic cloud, the great space blanket, consists for the most part of the modified atoms of calcium. The stone atom is one of the most prevalent and persistent of the elements. It not only endures solar ionization, splitting, but persists in an associative identity even after it has been battered by the destructive X-rays and shattered by the high solar temperatures. Calcium possesses an individuality and a longevity excelling all of the more common forms of matter. Wow.
Okay, so most of what the universe is built on is calcium, is it not? Think about it this way. What do you think your bones are made out of?
Calcium.
Calcium, right? That's why when you x-ray them, they show up on the x-ray because there's calcium in them. Okay? They're not torn down by the x-rays. So they stay persistent. But you got to remember though, that's because we don't go out and get in front of an x-ray machine every day, right? If you did that day after day after day, it would start degenerating your calcium, okay, over a period of time. But it is interesting that calcium is so important in the whole universe, right? Basically, we're moving and existing in a sea of calcium. Okay, stone, right? Yeah, Gary.
I kind of got the impression that calcium and stone material or sand is one and the same.
Not exactly one and the same, but there is calcium in all stone. Okay, so it's calcium mixed with various other chemicals. That's why we have the table of minerals and stuff, because it's a mixture of not only calcium but other. Don't do that. Yeah. It's calcium and other materials that make up different types of stone, right? So, and depending on what you're going for, whether you're looking for calcium or iron or gold, silver, platinum, you know, they're different variations of those calcium atoms, right? Make sense? Okay. So it has a little bit of it in each one. All right. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Calcium is, in fact, the chief element of the matter permeation of space throughout Urantia. Our whole super universe is sprinkled with
I think we just read that
minute-
one.
Yeah.
Oh, the
I
next.
think we just read that. It's the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. As your
As your
physicists,
physicists have said.
okay. As your physicists have suspected, these mutilated remnants of solar calcium literally ride the light beams for very distances, and thus their widespread dissemination throughout space is tremendously facilitated. The sodium atom, under certain modifications, is also capable of light and energy locomotion. The calcium feat is all the more remarkable since this element has almost twice the mass of sodium. Local space permeation by calcium is due to the fact that it escapes from the solar photosphere in modified form by literally riding the outgoing sunbeams. Of all the solar elements, calcium, notwithstanding its comparative bulk, containing as it does 20 revolving electrons, is the most successful in escaping from the solar interior to the realms of space. This explains why there is a calcium layer, a gaseous stone surface on the sun 6,000 miles thick. And this despite the fact that the 19 lighter elements and numerous heavier ones are underneath.
Isn't that interesting? You know, it's funny about this is I think it was in the 70s, about the middle 70s sometime, they actually discovered some of these things. The scientists actually discovered these things on their own. And really it was interesting because it validated the Urantia book. Okay. And it's just funny how many things have come along over a period of time that is telling people, yeah, this is the truth, you know, any way you look at it. So
Yeah.
Gary, would you take the next one, please?
Calcium is inactive. That one. Hmm?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, calcium is an active and versatile element at solar temperatures. The stone atom has two agile and loosely attached electrons in the two outer electron circuits, which are very close together. Early in the atom struggle, it loses its outer electron, whereupon it engages in a masterful act of juggling the 19th electron back and forth between the 19th and 20th circuits of electronic revelation. By tossing this 19th electron back and forth between its own orbit and that of its lost companion more than 25,000 times a second, a mutilated stone atom is able particularly to defy gravity and thus successfully to ride the emerging streams of light and energy, the sunbeams, to liberty and adventure. This calcium atom moves outward by alternate jerks of forward pulsations, grasping and letting go the sunbeam about 25,000 times each second. And this is why stone is the chief component of the world of space. Calcium is the most expert solar prism escaper.
You know, isn't that amazing?
You could almost write a drama about that, couldn't you?
You could, you really could. It's something else. Great material for science fiction, isn't it? Yeah. All right, let's keep going. We'll try to finish this section in about next 3 minutes. So everybody take a minute of paper here. You take the first one there.
The agility of this acrobatic calcium electron is indicated by the fact that when tossed by the temperature X-ray solar sources to the circle of the higher orbit, it only remains in that orbit for about one millionth of a second. But before the electric gravity power of the atomic nucleus pulls it back into its old orbit, it is able to complete 1 million revolutions about the atomic center. Wow. Yeah, really.
That is just amazing. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one? Your son has the part.
Yes. Your sun has parted with an enormous quantity of its calcium, having lost tremendous amounts during the times of its convulsive eruptions in connection with the formation of the solar system. Much of the solar calcium is now in the outer crust of the sun.
Hard to imagine our sun being the outer crust being calcium, isn't it? All right. Jane, would you take that last paragraph in this section here?
Okay. It should be remembered that spectral analysis show only sun surface compositions. For example, solar spectra exhibits many iron lines, but iron is not the chief element in the sun. This phenomenon is almost wholly due to the present temperature of the sun's surface, a little less than 6,000 degrees, this temperature being very favorable to the registry of the iron spectrum.
Our scientists just can't compete, can they? And that's all there is to it. You know? Okay, we'll take it up from section 7, sources of solar energy, next time. So let's stop the share here, and we'll have a prayer, and we'll close it. We actually closed on time tonight too. How about that? All right, let's have a short prayer, and we'll close for tonight. We hadn't prayed in a while. Well, Jane, would you like to pray for us?
Okay.
All right.
Well, oh God, we give you thanks for this evening. We give you thanks for the revelation and all the information and knowledge they disclose to us. We thank you for everything, whether we understand it or not, it really doesn't matter. We trust in your great creation, in your works. We thank you for your perfection and for your infinite design. In all things, there are no flaws. We pray for one another. We pray for this planet of ours, that you continue to watch over it. We thank you for Jesus of Nazareth, Michael of Lebanon, and we give thanks for everything. Amen.
Amen.
And
And thank you all at home for joining us, those on Lifebook and Vimeo and Truthbook. See you next time here. Let me stop the video for this one. Stop the recording.